Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Khalid bin Talal Al Saud, affectionately known to many as the Sleeping Prince, has passed away at the age of 36 after spending nearly 2 decades in a coma, a long and heartbreaking chapter that captured the attention and prayers of a nation, and indeed, the entire Arab world. His death was announced by his father, Prince Khalid bin Talal Al Saud, on Saturday, July 19, marking the end of a tragic and emotionally charged journey that spanned 20 years of hope, pain, and unrelenting faith. His passing has left many Saudis in mourning, while others reflect on the resilience of a father's love, the fragility of life, and the unseen battles fought quietly behind hospital walls. The tragic story began in 2005 when Prince Al-Walid was just a 15-year-old teenager brimming with promise. At the time, he was pursuing his education at a military college in London, preparing for a life in service and leadership, like many of the young royals in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He had a bright future ahead, filled with privilege, but also with a sense of duty and national pride. However, in an instant, his entire trajectory changed. A devastating car accident left him with traumatic brain injuries and severe internal bleeding. The impact of the crash was so intense that the young prince slipped into a deep coma, one that he would never fully emerge from. After receiving emergency treatment in the UK, he was transferred back home to Saudi Arabia, where he was admitted to King Abdulaziz Medical City in Riyadh. It was there, in a quiet hospital room shielded from the outside world, that Prince Al-Walid would spend the remainder of his life. The hospital bed, surrounded by machines and wires, became his new reality, a space where time stood still and hope fought against science with every passing year. While many might have considered such a prolonged vegetative state to be the end of meaningful life, his family, especially his father, saw things differently. Prince Khalid bin Talal, his father, became a symbol of unwavering devotion. Unlike others who might have given in to despair or made the painful decision to end life support, Prince Khalid believed, deeply and spiritually, that his son would one day awaken. His belief was rooted in his Islamic faith, in which miracles are possible and life is sacred beyond comprehension. Over the years, he not only kept his son alive physically but surrounded him with a living presence of love, light, and prayer. He frequently visited the hospital, and his presence was never just ceremonial. He would talk to his son, touch his hand, whisper prayers, and even decorate his room for holidays. Photos and videos occasionally surfaced online, showing the prince's hospital room transformed with lights and traditional ornaments during Ramadan or Eid. There were scenes of family members, young and old, standing by his side, reciting Quranic verses or gently brushing his hair. It wasn't just an act of hope, it became a ritual, a sacred duty, and an expression of profound human connection. Social media played a significant role in keeping his memory alive in the public consciousness. Posts shared by Prince Khalid, often featuring touching images or emotional messages, would quickly go viral, sparking waves of public support. Millions across the Middle East prayed for the prince's recovery, and many followed his story for years, as one follows the fate of a loved one. Even though Prince Al-Walid remained in a coma, there were moments that gave his family and supporters glimpses of hope. On a few occasions, subtle movements were observed, a slight flutter of the eyelid, the lift of a finger, or the gentle raising of a hand. These responses, though medically interpreted as reflexive or non-cognitive, were celebrated by his family as signs of life and connection. Videos capturing these movements often brought viewers to tears, not just for what they showed, but for what they symbolized, the unbreakable bond between a father and a son, and the deep human yearning to believe in miracles. His hospital room became a sort of shrine, not in the religious sense, but in the emotional and spiritual one. Many prominent figures, including royal family members, religious leaders, and influential dignitaries, visited him over the years. They came not just to witness his condition, but to offer solidarity, prayers, and love. Those who entered the room often left visibly moved, shaken by the sight of a young man who had become the embodiment of both tragedy and hope. Prince Khalid never shied away from expressing his emotions publicly. In interviews and on social media, he spoke with raw honesty about the pain of seeing his son in such a state, but also about the serenity that came from his religious conviction. He saw his son's condition not as a curse, but as a test, one that he had to endure with patience, faith, and humility. To some, this might seem like blind optimism, but to others, it was a demonstration of courage and divine submission. In Islam, caring for the sick and valuing every breath of life is seen as a noble and deeply spiritual duty. For Prince Khalid, that duty was personal and lifelong. In many ways, the sleeping prince became more than just an individual. He became a symbol, a silent testimony to the mysteries of life and the depths of human endurance. His story resonated with many families who had loved ones in similar conditions, whether due to illness, accidents, or aging. His legacy reached beyond royal circles, touching ordinary people in hospitals and homes who knew what it meant to pray beside someone who couldn't respond. On July 19, 2025, that long, delicate thread was finally broken. Prince Al-Walid passed away at the medical facility that had become his home for 2 decades. The announcement of his death was made by his father, Prince Khalid, who shared the heartbreaking news with the world via X, formerly Twitter. In a deeply emotional post written in Arabic, he wrote, "With hearts believing in Allah's will and decree, and with deep sorrow and sadness, we mourn our beloved son, Prince Al-Walid bin Khalid bin Talal bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, may Allah have mercy on him, who passed away today." The message was accompanied by a black and white photograph of his son lying in bed, eyes peacefully closed, as though he were still in a deep sleep. The image was powerful, a final farewell to the prince whose body had endured so much, whose presence had lingered between 2 worlds for so long. It was not just a father's tribute, it was a release, a moment when love meets acceptance, and hope bows quietly before reality. His funeral was scheduled for the following day, Sunday, July 20th, and was expected to draw significant attendance from the royal family, public figures, and grieving citizens. While some saw his passing as a relief after years of suffering, others mourned deeply, not just for the young man who died, but for the story that came to an end. For so long, the story of Prince Al-Walid had remained suspended, like an unfinished song. Now, it had its final note. Born in April 1990, Prince Al-Walid was the grandson of Prince Talal bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and the great-grandson of King Abdulaziz, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia. His family lineage is deeply embedded in the very roots of the kingdom's history and development. He was also the nephew of Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, one of the most internationally recognized Saudi royals, known for his philanthropic work and global investments. The younger Al-Walid, often called a Didich by his family, was known to be bright, ambitious, and deeply loved by those closest to him. Although he never had the chance to live a full life or participate in public service, his story became a quiet form of service. It reminded people of the fragility of human life, the depth of familial devotion, and the power of faith. His name was often spoken with a tone of reverence, not because of his political or social achievements, but because of the spiritual weight his story carried.